Hi everybody. Tonight we're looking at my Gourami tank again. I apologize if I seem obsessed with this tank as of late, but I kinda am. I really love this tank, I really do. I get a lot of compliments on it every time I shoot video of it. So tonight I decided I'm going to try to shoot some video with my good camera, and right now we are actually sitting fairly far away from the tank, and I wanted to give everybody a little more of a look of what I get to enjoy when I'm sitting around here. I know I usually do feeding videos, which this eventually is going to be. But in the meantime, this sort of gives you an idea of what I get to enjoy when I just sit here and relax in front of the tank. And it really is a very relaxed tank. It's not nearly as hectic and frantic as it seems when I'm throwing shrimp pellets and that sort of thing in there. The fish really go nuts, and of course they act like fish at feeding time. Everybody that has fish know how excited everybody gets when it's feeding time. But this is what I normally get to enjoy. The gouramis just chilling out, looking beautiful, hanging out underneath those roots. Earlier today, the snake skin, that large one in the back there, had nestled up into the roots themselves and was taking a nap, looking beautiful. And then of course my opaline there just looks fantastic. And they're up there just sort of pecking away, nibbling at the roots. The loaches get up in there and do their thing and root around for any little bits of food and things that they want to eat. And just all in all, it's a generally relaxed tank. The catfish tend to stay asleep and hidden during the day, at least until food goes in the tank. We will probably get to see my striped Raphael come out here in a little bit. And the loaches just sort of do their thing. They don't really run around the tank. Quite often you'll see them in there dozing, lying on the bottom. They often look like they're dead, honestly. I've said before that a lot of new first-time loach owners will come down to quite a shock when they look in their fish tank and they see one of their loaches lying on the bottom, floating in the current, only for a moment later for that loach to pop up and swim away because it was just taking a nap. Now, there's my gold gourami. I said in a video the other day how my moonlights will often separate, and one female, or one of the moonlights, they're all females, one of the moonlights will come over to this end of the tank and kind of hang out, and there she is, and you could see below her, that was my gold we were just looking at. So this end of the tank is kind of a chill out zone when fish want to go somewhere and get away from the hustle and bustle of the rest of the tank. I did just shoot a video recently where I was talking about how gouramis can be a little on the aggressive side. More so than a lot of people seem to think, and it's important to have a tank set up like this. You notice I have a lot of swimming room around in the middle that gives them a lot of open space. They are fish that need to swim and move around. They have plenty of surface cover that protects them from bright direct light. They do appreciate that. You will enjoy your gouramis much more if they feel safe and comfortable. And you can even notice the ones on the other end of the tank. Sorry for all this back and forth. As I said, we are on the other side of the room. Even these two tend to stay down behind that piece of wood. So I've got lines of sight that are broken up. These gouramis have a safe place they can go if they're being harassed by any of the more dominant ones. And of course this one here, my opaline, she is fairly dominant in the tank. That gave you a good look at her girth. She's a big girl. And she's reasonably aggressive. My snakeskin there is very much bigger, so when she really wants to put her fin down, so to speak, she does. She really just goes in there and breaks up fights a lot of times. I really love her. My snakeskin gourami is just fantastic. She is awesome. But she's really chilled out. She's really docile, and she doesn't really instigate anything. The opaline, on the other hand, will. And because of that, the other fish will often stay down at the other end of the tank like we just saw. So it's important if you have gouramis and you have fish that are going to, really any kind of fish that is going to be sort of aggressive and there's going to be a pecking order, you really should give fish a place to go so they can kind of get away from the attentions of the more dominant animals in the tank. So now that we've seen them all nice and relaxed and chilled out, let me go ahead and pause the video here. And then we will go ahead and get started again, and we will watch a little bit more action-packed second half of the video. So sit tight for half a second and let me get the tank ready, and I'm going to throw some shrimp pellets in there, and I'm going to break up some hikari algae wafers along with them, and together that will make a little cocktail on the bottom, and everybody will go crazy for it. We'll get some good close-up shots of the loaches feeding. So sit tight for half a second. Alright, we got everybody in there, and there is my striped Raphael already. They don't take long to smell when the food gets in there. So this is one of the, what I would think of as the feature fish in this tank. This is my striped Raphael Catfish. He's a big pork pie in there. Typically they're very reclusive fish. There's a lot of people that have these that really never get to see them very often, and I didn't for a long time. I've had him for about 2 years, and it has only been fairly recently that he's become a little more outgoing, and I think a lot of that has to do with he's just getting so big. He doesn't have a whole lot of places where he can be really that well hidden. He's also getting big enough where he feels quite comfortable coming out and about. He's not intimidated by anybody anymore, so when food is in the tank, he comes right out and takes his fill. So even though he is a fairly reclusive fish, I tend to think of him as more of a feature fish in this tank. If you hear any clicking or clacking sort of sounds, that is not stuff banging up against the glass. That is actually these loaches. They do have a set of pharyngeal teeth that they click together when they are excited, and sometimes they do it when they're fighting or if they're competing with each other for territory, and that will make that strange little clicking sound. So if you've actually got loaches and you've ever heard that noise in the tank after you fed them, and you're wondering what that is, that actually is coming from the loaches themselves. They have teeth that make that noise specifically. So hopefully one of these days, while I'm just shooting some random video like this, we will get to see my red tail loach. Sometimes they're called blue loaches, and that one is fairly large, and it is in the back of the tank almost all the time. It's larger than these clown loaches right here, and it is not very friendly. I did not know that when I got it. See, now the Gouramis are starting to figure out that the food all went to the bottom, is not on the top, and we'll get to see some Gouramis doing some handstands or some nose stands. I guess they technically can't really do handstands since they don't really have them, but you know what I mean. Anyway, the blue loach or the red tail loach is actually fairly aggressive, and they get fairly large. I did not know that when I bought it. Almost all loaches are gregarious, meaning that they enjoy company of other similar fish, so they don't even necessarily have to be with other loaches of the same species. You can often mix loaches together, and as long as there's a group of them, they will get along just fine, and their sort of community needs will be met. You don't necessarily have to have a school of the same animals. So when I bought the red tail, I just saw a beautiful loach and just assumed it was a beautiful loach like any other. And of course I was not warned by the individual that sold it to me that it was actually one of the very few loaches that are fairly aggressive, especially by loaches, standards. So I kind of noticed that myself, and I kind of scratched my head about it for a long time. I just couldn't understand why he never got along with anybody. Definitely does not play well with others. And I had mentioned it to somebody else who had a lot more experience one day, and they just started laughing. And they said, yeah, those blue loaches, boy, they're nasty. And then we had a conversation about it after that, and then I found out that, yes, in fact, that, the blue loaches are nasty. And they get big. I did not know that either. I was told it was only going to get about 5 inches, and it's already about 5 inches, and I've only had the thing about 9 months. Maybe a little longer than that, maybe a year. Time really does get away from me. But at any rate, I do have this very large loach in there that is going to have to come out at some point and get rehomed, and it is not going to get rehomed in one of my tanks because I just don't want to put another problem from one tank to another. So I'll go ahead and get that back to the pet store and get that sold for some store credit, and who knows what we'll get. But that'll be down the road. I really don't look forward to the day that I have to get into this tank and try to get a loach out of the bottom. That will not be fun at all. So I'll just go ahead and wrap that up and call that the end of this video. That wasn't going to be anything specific, just kind of a look at the tank and, a little bit of an enjoyment and a little bit of a chat. So go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I do a lot of these kind of videos. I do a lot of videos where I actually talk about more specific things. I do discussion topics and so on and so forth. So lots of good stuff on my channel, and you don't want to miss any of it. So go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. If you are already subscribed, thank you. And thank you also for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you real soon on the next one.